One of the most important techniques in fighting games doesn't even look like anything at all. It's not a flashy combo, nor does it include any dramatic animations. You don't even see the move that started it. And yet, that invisible moment can be the difference between a whiff and a tournament-winning conversion. The Kara cancel is the act of canceling the startup of one move into another move before the first one ever fully appears. The name comes from the Japanese word kara, meaning empty or sky, because the original action is effectively erased. You begin a move, then immediately cancel it so early that it never exists on screen at all, but properties of that original move still remain, allowing for techniques like the sliding special move. Not every move can be Kara cancelled. Typically it's only normal attacks that qualify, and what they can cancel into depends on the game, most often special moves or supers. But within that tiny window of a few startup frames, the engine allows one action to flow directly into another, creating results that designers may have intended only for leniency, but players turned into something much more powerful. Kara cancelling wasn't born as a deliberate high-level mechanic. Its earliest known appearance traces back to magazines like the Neo Geo Freak in 1996, which referred to a related but different type of cancel known as a damashi kyanseru, or the deceptive cancel, a name that reflects how misleading the technique appeared. This is because, as of the King of Fighters 95, two distinct techniques existed, including one that involved projectiles. The very first use of the damashi cancel comes from the original Samurai Spirits, or Samurai Showdown as it's known in the West. Players discovered that certain close-range slashes could be cancelled almost immediately into command throws. Characters like Hanzo could cancel a standing strong slash into a command throw, such as his Ninpo Mozu Otoshi, a technique that became known as the Mozu cancel. This technique opened the door to pressure sequences and combo conversions that weren't supposed to exist. Rather than being patched out, this behavior was preserved and carried forward into the following game, cementing this canceling option as an accidental but accepted part of the game's design. Another similar technique comes from the King of Fighters 94 and 95, though it's still a bit different from your traditional Kara cancel. In these games, when you cancel a hit or blocked normal attack into a command grab, the grab doesn't actually come out and do a whiff animation. Instead, the character can move immediately. Thus, when you command grab cancel a normal attack, it allows for links that would have been out of range originally. This greatly increased the number of possible links for characters with command throws, even allowing for touch of death combos like with Ralph Jones. But still, this is not a true Kara cancel. These are damashi cancels meant to describe these deceptive techniques. Although the first use of the word Kara cancel was actually in a 1995 magazine, time would have to go on before the actual definition of Kara canceling was cemented to express its definition of moves that get cancelled on whiff before they fully come out. From a mechanical standpoint, Kara cancels exist because developers wanted inputs to feel forgiving. If a player slightly mistimed an input, such as pressing a normal just before a special, the game would allow the special to come out by letting the normal cancel during its early startup. This window is usually extremely tight, often just 2 or 3 frames. Under normal rules, cancelling an attack requires it to make contact with the opponent. The only exception is moves that can be explicitly cancelled on whiff. But Kara cancelling bypasses this requirement entirely, cancelling the move before it can even be perceived by the human eye. Not every game supports this behavior, but when it does, it's usually the result of engines allowing sloppy inputs, so players don't need machine-perfect execution. In that sense, it's an elegant way to cover up a player's potential mistakes. Of course, players didn't stop at convenience. A true gamer always strives to break any new mechanic they learn. In order to intentionally perform a Kara cancel, though, you normally need to do a plink input. This means quickly pressing 2 buttons in extremely quick succession so that you can successfully cancel a move within the short 2 to 3 frame window. As players experimented with this new technique, they realized Kara cancels could produce dramatic side effects. Under normal circumstances, cancelling the first few frames of one attack into another would be completely unremarkable. In fact, it extends the startup of a move, making it slower, so it might even be considered detrimental at times. If nothing changes on screen and no hitbox ever comes out, then in theory it shouldn't do anything at all. But Kara cancels become powerful because some moves don't just animate during startup, they move the character's model forward in those very first frames. That tiny bit of movement is the entire trick. by choosing a move that slides the character forward during startup and then canceling it immediately into another action. The second move is executed from a new position. The original move never appears, but its momentum does. In Japan, this idea is often referred to as the sliding special move. It's the foundation of most practical Kara cancel applications. Another version of this concept allows characters to slide backward, dodging close range options like throws, but it's much rarer. A classic example of the sliding special move comes from Street Fighter III Third Strike with Ken. His famous double Shoryuken combo is not possible without a Kara cancel. The first frame of Ken's crouching heavy kick nudges him forward ever so slightly. By canceling that crouching HK into a Shoryuken, the second Shoryu launches from a position a few pixels closer than normal. At full speed, you never see the crouching heavy kick. It's cancelled instantly, but the increased range makes the combo possible. A more modern and extremely visible example, on the other hand, is Potemkin in Guilty Gear Strive. Potemkin's 6K is an advancing command normal where he leans forward with a shoulder charge. If you Kara cancel the startup of 6K into a special move, he can slide forward, extending the attack beyond its intended range. Every striver knows and fears the Kara Buster, where he Kara cancels 6K into his command grab, making him a threat even from round starts. When Arc System Works briefly removed his Kara cancels, the backlash was immediate. It effectively nullified the many thousands of hours and muscle memory that Potemkin players have built over the years. Not to mention, it removes the character's depth, making him feel more two-dimensional in his gameplay. Soon after, the change was reversed. Even though Potemkin is already a very strong character on his own, his Kara cancels add a layer of expression to his moveset. Rather than being a simple grappler, it's possible to unleash all sorts of tech, allowing him to slide forward not just with his Potemkin Buster, but with all other special moves. Kara cancels aren't required to play him at a basic level, but mastering them fundamentally changes how threatening he can be, and that's what makes him such a fascinating character, even if his balance changes were designed by Satan himself. Beyond Potemkin specifically, every character in Guilty Gear Strive can Kara cancel their dashes and special moves, enabling character-specific tech, combo extensions, and lots of routing optimizations. In some cases, Kara canceling a special move can even generate just enough meter to enable a super that otherwise wouldn't be possible. Sometimes, Kara cancels go beyond clever optimization and become outright broken. Most infamous example is roll canceling in Capcom vs SNK 2. Because rolls grant invincibility, players discovered that they could Kara cancel a roll into a special move and retain that invincibility. You see, this game has a mechanic called groove, which is like a variation of your character that you can choose to change how they function, and 3 out of these 6 grooves allow the character to roll. This mechanic was so powerful that it defined high-level play for years, granting near-universal strike invincibility to special moves. To give perspective on just how insane this technique is, rolls grant 27 frames of invincibility, almost half a second, which is basically an eternity in fighting game terms. On average, a full power level 3 super in that game only has around 25 frames of invincibility. In modern games like Street Fighter VI, that number drops lower to around 15 frames. Of course, as with every other Kara cancel in the world, roll cancels must be performed within 2 frames of the startup, a window of 1/30th of a second. But in exchange to that mechanical difficulty, you gain access to a technique that can make even low tiers a threat. A similar idea actually appears in Melty Blood with shield bunker canceling, specifically with Neko Arc Chaos. In the game, you are able to perform a shield bunker, which functions kind of similar to a guard cancel. It allows the blocking player to counter the opponent's next attack. Shield bunker canceling allows a player to cancel their block stun with a shield bunker, then cancel that shield bunker into another attack. This technique in and of itself isn't really a Kara cancel, but with Neko Arc Chaos, he can cancel his shield bunker into a strike invincible dash under very specific situations. Once again, a tiny startup window meant for leniency becomes a full-blown system mechanic in the hands of players. Whether it's extended grab range, enabling impossible-looking combos, or accidentally breaking an entire game, Kara cancels show how something invisible and unintended can become one of the most expressive and influential techniques in fighting games. It is a perfect example of how these games evolve beyond what is written on their move lists. In just a few invisible frames, Kara cancels turn nothing into something. Honestly, it's like magic, like pulling a rabbit out of a hat. From Samurai Showdown's Mozu cancel, to Third Strike Ken, to Potemkin's Kara Buster to even infamous bugs like roll cancelling, Kara cancels consistently reward system knowledge and mechanical mastery. Kara cancelling is especially interesting in that it sits on the boundary between intention and accident. Developers didn't set out to create most of these techniques, but they also chose not to remove them. In many cases, they embraced them, recognizing that depth, expression, and player creativity are what give fighting games longevity. At the end of the day, Kara cancels remind us that fighting games aren't just about what you see on screen. They're about understanding the rules deeply enough to exploit the gaps between frames. And sometimes, the strongest move you can make is the one that never even comes out at all.